Yo, what's up, team? Happy Friday. Hopefully, you're watching it today on Friday. Well, today is Wednesday when I'm recording this, but this lesson is Friday. And this is going to wrap up what we're going to do basically before we leave for Thanksgiving break next week. You're going to have a quiz on Tuesday. Today's going to be our last lesson. We're going to review on Monday and you take a quiz on Tuesday. And what we're going to do is going to combine everything that we've been doing so far this week with fractions, decimals, and percents, and we're going to be comparing and ordering them. Because you know now how to convert them between each other, you now can then take a fraction, a decimal, and percent, and say put them in order from least to greatest or something like that. So let's take a look at a few examples here real quick. First, we're going to start off with fractions, right? Fractions in general. And let's take some kind of easier ones, I would say. And let's take the fraction, say 1/2. And we're going to use these kind of circles here. I know you put greater than, less than, or equal to in there, right? And tell me if 1/2 and 3/4 are greater than, less than, or equal to each other. Is 1/2 greater than, less than, or equal to 3/4? And now, I'm going to tell you right now, the best way to do all of the problems that I'm about to give you is to turn everything into decimals. Because from what I've seen from my students over the years, from you guys this year, time and time again, is that you guys are much better at comparing decimals than you are fractions or percents, right? Turn everything into decimals if you can, right? So for example, if I wanted to turn 1/2 into a decimal, there's a couple different ways we could do this, right? Remember, we practiced on Monday. You can take 1 and divide it by 2, that will give you the decimal. Or you can get the denominator to a power of 10. So for example, you could take 1/2 and make the denominator 10 by creating an equivalent fraction, right? And in this case, if you multiply by 5 here, by 5 here, you find out this is 5/10, right? And the fraction 1/2 is exactly that, 5/10, right? So what we're looking at over here is 0.5. Now we could do the same thing with 3/4 over here, right? We could figure out what that would be as a decimal if we were to do the same thing, but turn the 4, it doesn't go to 10, but we could take it up to 100. Or the other way I showed you, which works every single time, and is a great way to turn fractions into decimals, is to just take 3, the top number, and divide it by the bottom number. Now I know that looks weird to some people still, but all you have to do is add a little decimal to the end of that number, and then all of a sudden it starts to look a little bit better, right? 4 doesn't go into 3, I know, but 4 does go into 30, right? 4 goes into 30 7 times, and 7 times 4 is 28. We subtract, we get 2 left over, but remember this is a decimal, so we can keep going. And luckily for us, this will divide evenly. 4 goes into 20 5 times, which is 20, and we're done, right? So the answer to this one is 0.75. So then what we can do now that they're both decimals and that we're pretty good at comparing and ordering decimals is we take a look at both of them and we say, okay, well, we're going to look at the ones place. Obviously, there's nothing there. But then the decimal, and then the tenths place, there's a 5 here and a 7 here. So this one over here is definitely a bigger fraction, which means that 1/2 is less than 3/4. Right? And that's what we're going to be doing today trust me on this one, turn them to decimals. It's a lot easier to compare every time, right? So let's take another example really quick. Let's take a look at, let's try this one here. 3/4 compared to 0.7, right? I might ask you to compare and say, well, how does 3/4 stack up to 7/10? And we just did 3/4. So this is kind of nice because we know what 3/4 is going to be, right? We know that this is going to end up being 0.075. But what that allows us to do is once they are the same type of number, then we can compare them. Because we can't compare them looking like this. This doesn't help us. Right? Most of us don't know what that is as a decimal right off the top of our head. And most of us don't know what that is as a fraction right off the top of our head. So we got to turn them into the same type of number. And in this case, I turned the 3/4 into a decimal. And now I can compare the two. Right? Obviously, 75 hundredths is bigger than 70 hundredths. So 75 or 3/4 is greater than 7/10 in this case. The next couple problems here are going to be a little bit more challenging, but this is a good thing. So this first one I want to give you, I want you to try this one out real quick, is 2/3 compared to 6/10. Now my suggestion before you start this one is to turn this 2/3 into a decimal. That's already a decimal. That's good. This, turn that into a decimal, and then compare them for me. All right, so hopefully you guys are coming back to me with an answer on this one. And hopefully you didn't try to take this denominator and get it to a power of 10, because that's going to be a lot more difficult than just simply dividing it and doing 2 divided by 3. Why is my thing so blurry? I can't figure it out. Anyway, 2 divided by 3. 3, does that go into 2? That's okay. Add your decimal, and then we'll start dividing, right? 3 goes into 20 6 times, which is 18. There's 2 left over. Okay, and then we add a 0. We go down, and we're at 20 again. Well, we already know 3 goes into 20 6 times, which is 18. It's going to give us a 2. We bring down a 0, and we're right back here with 20. So what's going to happen here is this 6 is going to keep repeating. Right, it's going to be 0.66666 to go on forever, right? This is going to keep happening. So I can stop here and say that this is just going to keep repeating. And that's enough information for me to compare these, though, because I know that 0.6 does not keep repeating, right? We can put zeros on the end of this. It doesn't really matter. But we know that this is going to have 6's repeating on and on forever. So this one is going to be bigger than this one right here, because this is just 1 6 and then a 0. And if we compare the 10th place, there's a 6. And if we go to the 100th place, this one has a 0, this one has a 6. So this one's definitely bigger. So we would say that 2/3 is bigger than 6/10 on that one. The next one, let's compare 6.5 to 650%. Now, I haven't showed you guys these yet, but there are percents that can be over 100%. They're very rare, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on them. But the point here is can you convert these numbers to what they're supposed to be? And we already have one of them that's a decimal, so we're going to leave that one alone. The 650% is the one that we're going to turn into a decimal. And if you remember the trick I taught you yesterday, all you have to do is take the decimal that will be right here in the number 650. Pretend this is a regular 650. There will be a decimal right here. And all you have to do to turn this into a decimal is move it 2 places to the left, right? So if you move it 2 places to the left, this will be 6.5. And then if we have 6.5 here and 6.5 here, then these two are in fact equal. All right, we're going to try 2 more problems here, guys. This next one, 7% compared to 7/10. Now, neither of these are decimals. My suggestion still remains the same. Turn them both into decimals so you can compare them better and see what we get. So hopefully you're coming back to me with the answer right now. And what I would do here is I would take 7/10 is going to be nice and easy to turn to a decimal, because 7/10 as a decimal is just exactly that. 7 in the 10th place, right? It's 0.7. Okay. Now 7% to a decimal, same thing we did in the last problem. If you want to turn this into a decimal, take that decimal, move it 2 places to the left. So this would actually be, I'm going to put a placeholder 0 in this, is actually be 0.07 on this side. So now I'm comparing 7/100 to 7/10. And so if I start, I can put zeros in the ones places here. So if I start in the ones place, same number. These have the same value here so far. So let's move over to the 10th place. That one has a 0, this one has a 7. So obviously this number right here is bigger, right? 70, and if I put a 0 in here, 70/100 is bigger than 7/100. So 7% is far less than 7/10. And we're going to do one more problem here, guys. And I'm going to have you order these fractions from least to greatest. This is a half, 2/3, 1/4, and 5/6. And to put these fractions in order from least to greatest, you could make all the denominators the same, so you can compare them, but my suggestion would be turn them into decimals. It is a lot easier to do that. You can find one standard way of doing it. So go ahead, pause the video now, see if you can put these fractions in order from least to greatest. And hopefully come back to me now with an answer to this one. And what I would do is start turning these into decimals. So I'm going to take a half and turn it into a decimal. I know what this one is. I can do it for you real quick. Just 1 divided by 2. I know that 2 goes into 10 5 times. There it is. It's 0.5, right? So a half as a decimal is 0.5. Okay. I'm going to work my way over here. I'm going to do 2/3. We just did 2/3, right? We found out that that was 0.6 repeating, right? That 6 was just going to keep going on and on forever, so I'm not going to do that one again. That's earlier in the video if you want to see that one. 1/4. And as you can see, guys, it is pretty easy to divide these numbers once you practice it a little bit. Just add a decimal and a 0 to them. 4 goes into 10 2 times, which is 8. We're going to have to add another 0. 4 goes into 25 times evenly. We're done. It's 0.25. Right, 25 hundredths on that one. And then let's go to the last one here, 5/6. I happen to know that this one's not going to be an even one. But again, guys, if you want to turn it to decimal, just 5 divided by 6. We'll add a little 0 here. 6 goes into 50. 8 times, which is 48. To bring down our 0 here. And 6 goes into 20 3 times, which is 18. 2. That's going to be a 0. That's going to bring us right back to 20. So that's going to keep repeating. So that 3 is going to keep repeating on this one. And so this one's going to be 0.83 with repeating, not the 8, but the 3. So now that I have all of these numbers as decimals, I can compare them way better. And I can put these fractions in order from least to greatest. Okay. So the smallest one out here, and doesn't matter how many digits they have, it matters going from left to right, start comparing the place values. They all have a 0 in the ones place, so I can't really tell anything from there. So I'm going to go to the 10th place, the next place over. This one is a 5, this one is a 6, this one has a 2, and this one has an 8. So obviously the 2 in the 10th place is going to make this the smallest fraction out of all of them. 1/4 is the smallest fraction. The next smallest fraction, we've got a 5 in the 10th place, a 6 in the 10th place, and an 8. The 5 is the next smallest, so that would make a half the next smallest fraction. And then the next one will be the 6 in the 10th place, which would make 2/3 the next smallest, or the next biggest. And then finally the biggest one out here is 5/6 at 0.8 with a 3 repeating. So 5/6 would be our biggest fraction out of all of them. And our answer to this one would be 1/4, 1/2, 2/3, 5/6. And these are the type of problems I'm going to have you guys answer in today's lesson. We're going to review on Monday. You guys are going to take a quiz over all this stuff on Tuesday before Thanksgiving break. Hope you guys are all staying healthy. I will see you soon, hopefully. Have a good day.